Well, I came to the school in 1939. That's a little over 76 years, 75, 76 years ago. I was 10 years old and I was put into grade 5. It was a small school at that time. It had only been started in 1932, and I think at that time there were 17 students. Mrs. Clark was the first professional woman I ever knew. She wasn't like my mother or my mother's friends. She was just so different. I became very involved with the Alumni Association, sort of helped to revive it, in fact, and the York House Foundation. So I've maintained a lifelong interest in the school, and I still feel very much at home there.
I came to the school in the middle of grade 4, and my mother became very ill in December of grade 5, and I actually came into boarding in the middle of the Christmas holidays. And it was quite an interesting routine. We got up at 7 a.m., put our uniforms on, came down the stairs to the hall, and waited to go on a run. And every morning, rain or shine, whatever month, we ran from Alexandra down to the corner of the next street, crossed the street, ran up the other side, and back into the school. And some days, if Mrs. Virtue or Miss Graham were standing there, they'd check to see we had our bloomers on under our tunics. In grade 9, we were introduced to boys, and dancing classes were held at our gym with the boys from St. George's grade 9. And some of us struck up friendships with these young boys, and they wrote us letters. And the manner in which we communicated, if they had a sister or a friend in the school, we would find their bicycle, write a little note, and slip it in the handlebar, replacing the handle grip, without anybody knowing, we hoped.
I arrived at this school as a day girl in 1948, and at that time my parents were living in Vancouver, and the next year my father was moved, and so I went into boarding, and I was in boarding here at York House for 6 years. I'm very proud of my family because I have a daughter who came to York House and became the head girl, and after she graduated she became she is past chair of the foundation at York House. And that now I have 2 grandchildren, Megan, who graduated in 2015, and Claire, who graduated in 2017. So we left quite, I feel perhaps I left a legacy here at the school.
3 generations.
3 generations.
We didn't wear socks like the girls now. We wore stockings, and I remember the garter belts. And when pantyhose was developed, that seemed like the best thing. So much better than garter belts. Anyway, and of course the gloves and the beret, again, all fond memories. We all survived it. Well, you had to be in one to believe that you were wearing a pumpkin suit. It was our gym outfit, and it looked ridiculous. Now, it was very comfortable and easy to move around in, but just the name pumpkin suit, and that fact that there was a whole classroom of girls in pumpkin suits, it looked ridiculous, but it was part of the heritage of the school. The school created in me a love of sports, the opportunity to gain leadership skills. After graduation, we had women who became great mothers. We had nurses and doctors. We had a veterinarian. We had people in real estate, in business executives. We had a wide range of what happened to my classmates. But all in all, we were privileged to be together and inspire each other to what we could all become.
I have fond memories of the teachers at York House School.
And that's a big part of my believing that the teachers are what help the students get through their teenage years and get ready for life. And I had some dedicated teachers. They were young, which we didn't realize at the time, but they were young and dedicated, and they were terrific. The Not For Ourselves Alone motto was not as front and center as it is now, which is good. It should be front and center. And I think the thing that intrigued me, though, it was English, it wasn't Latin. That part I had picked up in school, and had learned sort of some of the history that, that was Lena Clark's way of making this a Canadian school. When I became chair of the Board of Governors, it was very much in my mind that I was the first alumna to chair the board. And there had been a woman chair before me, which was wonderful, and that was helpful too. But it's very important that alumna be involved in the school and have their opportunities to leave the school, go away, do their education, their professional life and so forth, and come back and give back to the school. The York House Alumni Network is important to help you feel grounded when you're many miles away or when you need certain expertise.
My grandmother, Virginia Moore, was a founder of the school, and my mother felt that it was really, really important that I attend. She was ahead of her time and a very modern woman, and felt that girls' education was so important, and I think that's one of the main reasons why they started the school in the first place. Was they wanted to have a boarding school where girls could come and not have to worry about anything and just be able to learn, and so that they could go out in the world and be all that they could be. And that's how they felt in 1932. And it's pretty amazing where the school's gone now and how important those things are to the school and to the world still, and how it just shows that she was ahead of her time.
My dad's sister, Corinth Ekman, went to York House. She started at York House in 1932 and graduated with the first graduating class in 1935. But she married an Air Force pilot, and she was in the Peace Corps, and I guess that's how she met this pilot, and he died fairly early on, and then she remarried Charles Carson, who was with the U.S., he was a U.S. Consul General, and traveled all over the world with him. She met presidents, she met kings and queens, and she experienced firsthand some revolutions. So there was a nice story about my daughter, Nicole. She graduated in 2014. And one evening, there was a new parents' evening, and she was asked to be one of the students who modeled uniform throughout the year. And Nicole put on this uniform, she did the modeling. At the end of the evening, she took off the blazer, and lo and behold, inside is the name tag, Corinth Ekman. She'd worn her great aunt's blazer, so that's very exciting, and I understand that the blazer is still in the archives at the school.
York House has been so important to my family, actually over several generations, not just mine and my children's. My grandparents on my mother's side of the family actually met in one of the houses on the property, and at a musical soiree. So music has always been very important. My most vivid memories of the school is the music department and the Hallelujah Chorus. I'm sure there's a decade of students who would be nodding their head at this. We had a teacher, Antoinette Babcock, who rewrote part of Handel's Messiah for the choir to sing. And this was in a day and age before technology, before computers, and she did it by hand, and she did this all so that we could sing as young girls the Hallelujah Chorus. My father, when he heard this, was almost in tears, and he said, "Ladies, you just don't realize what has been done on your behalf." And as a result, there is a generation of Yorkies who are familiar with this incredible work of art, all because this teacher felt so passionately and strongly that this is something that we should be exposed to and participate in. The most important lesson that I learned as a Yorkie was do not give up. Things do not always work the way you want it to. There are always many doors that are opened and many doors that are closed, and you will find a pathway, but do not give up. And York House encourages that on so many levels. The founders were here today at York House, I think they would be incredibly proud. They'd be pumping the air at all the change and development and the encouragement for moving forward and for progress. York House has always been a progressive school. They were progressive and visionary ladies.
There were boys, certainly in the 70s, but as I understand, from around the early 60s. I know the first day I arrived at York House was with my mom. My mom was there helping me set up my desk, so the picture that I've seen in the archives at York House, that's of me on my first day of school, actually.
There's two really memorable teachers that stand out in my mind. They were my kindergarten teacher, Miss England, and my grade 1 teacher, Miss Shaughnessy. I remember them just being both beautiful and caring people, and I see it again now that my girls are going through the little school and seeing them and all the activities that bring back a lot of memories, like chess and the neighborhood.
The York House network is a network that is always there for you, and to have that kind of sense of sisterhood with people who are older than you and younger than you, no matter where you travel, is very rare. You can show up in any city, and if you have a contact with a Yorkie, even if it's a friend or your mom's old friend or a teacher that connected you with somebody, you have a common ground that you can start from and build on. And if you are, looking for professional assistance or educational assistance, the network will never let you down. It is perhaps one of the most valuable things that will come out of your time at York House, because in life, relationships are everything. The motto, not for ourselves alone, I find myself actually saying to my kids. I find myself repeating that when I'm giving advice to my friends, and it just rolls off the tongue, and I think it encapsulates the reason why we're here on earth, to help each other, to be together, to build on our relationships. And it's simple and it's effective.
Not for ourselves alone is something that sort of was ingrained in us throughout our tenure here, and definitely it made me think outside of myself. And I know community service was a big part of our time here during high school, and then also furthering that into university and our professional lives. Like, we both sit on the Alumni Association now, like giving back to our community, and I think that was something that, because it was ingrained in us, at a young age, we have carried through our whole sort of lives to date.
Yeah, and to add to that, to me, it also meant that you are actually not alone, and that we are a community, and there's always someone there to help you if you need it, and that we can lean on each other. So outside of also contributing and putting in your community service work, I also felt that really strong community within the student body.
I have 3 of my best friends, and we became friends. 2 of them I started kindergarten with, 1 joined in grade 7, but I would say that the 4 of us are a tight-knit pack, and we have been since grade 7 and younger with the friends from kindergarten. And I would say that we're going to continue to be friends, and very close friends, for the rest of our lives.
The biggest thing that York House taught me really was how to be a friend and how to be part of a bigger community. I was really involved during my time at York House, and that's what made my experience, I think, so unique and special. And I mean, I always tell people now, I feel like in high school especially, I spent more time at York House than I did even at home with my family. My friends, my teachers, all the staff at the school, they became my family, and I think that getting to grow up in that environment where you really feel as though you're part of a community, that's the greatest takeaway that anybody can really have. I know everybody says it, but you really do sort of gain 60 sisters for the rest of your life.
I look back and think of these 7 women in 1932 who got together and started York House. There was always a message that we were, as young women, capable of going on and having careers, having opportunities were out there, and it was up to us to choose what we wanted to do. And when I go to graduation and listen to what the young women are doing in their future years, I'm so proud and think back how lucky we are to be at York House.